Okay, hi.
Hey man.
Andy. Welcome to Thailand again.
Great. Oh,
Yes.
it's great to be back.
Yeah.
Great to be back.
How many times you come here?
I think this is my fourth time.
Oh.
I've done 2 clinic tours that brought me to Bangkok, and then the last time I was here was with Olivia Newton-John.
Oh.
But that was 2012. So was it 6 years ago?
Yeah, 6 years.
So not that long ago, but 10 years. I think somebody was saying since my last guitar clinic. So it's been a while. So it's great to finally be back.
Yeah. Okay, please tell me about your guitar story when you was young.
I had 3 older brothers.
Okay.
And so they all played a little guitar.
Okay.
When I was growing up, there was this Silvertone was a very common brand of guitars that the Sears department store sold back in the 60s. So almost every family, it seemed like in America, had a Silvertone acoustic at their house. Mm-hmm. So they played a little bit, and I saw them playing chords, and they were also buying like all the 60s rock and roll stuff that was coming out, all the Beatles and Dave Clark 5 and the Kinks and the Yardbirds, all that. So that's the sound I grew up with, and the guitar was around the house. And I think when I was 5, I got my first toy plastic guitar.
Okay.
I very vividly remember being able to play I'm Not Your Stepping Stone by the Monkees. Okay. On one string I could play. Kids won't know this song, but I'm not your stepping stone. So at 5 years old, that.
Yeah.
Tricks that you used on me. You're reading all them high fashion magazines. The clothes you're wearing, girl, are causing public scenes. I said, I'm not your stepping stone. I'm not your stepping stone. Oh! Not your stepping stone.
That was before there was smoke on the water, right?
Okay.
But that was the beginning, And I went through a series of plastic guitars because they kept breaking. But so the older brothers were inspiring, the music I was hearing, and then maybe about the age of 12 or 13, I got my first job and bought my first copy electric guitar.
Okay.
And that I've never looked back since. And I was growing up in the 70s in the States, so about that time that I was 12 and 13, Kiss was popular, and Rush, and maybe Ted Nugent and Foghat. So I started learning by ear just with the record player.
Okay.
And Ace Frehley was a good guy to learn from, because it was kind of simple blues rock.
Okay.
And he had a good vibrato and the memorable solo. So that was my beginning. That was. And I was very fortunate that at the age of 13, I got in my first band.
Okay.
So from the age of 13 on, I've never not been in a band, And so that's one of the things I look back at and realize I was very fortunate that, I was in a band with older players that were experienced, but I was a young kid that could play. So I was getting all this live experience, I was practicing in my bedroom, but I was able to go out and utilize what I was learning playing gigs, from a very young age. So.
Yep.
That's one of those things that when one of the important factors of really developing a great playing style is just practicing, but also applications. That balance of getting out and playing and being in front of people and that energy that goes with that, right? So I look back and go, man, I was very fortunate that I had that opportunity.
On that time, have not a lot of have no YouTube, have no anything. How do you teach yourself?
That was it. I had my ear, and I had a record player. So I kind of had to earn it, and that's what when obviously the modern age, we have the world is in our back pocket with our iPhone, and it's a blessing and a curse. To say that if somebody's just showing you everything, you're not earning it, and the ear is the most important tool as a musician in that development. So I was again fortunate that I grew up in a time where I had to earn it. I had to listen and really try to figure it out. And that's where you really you're teaching yourself. Now, by the time I was 16, I finally got a guitar teacher, but he was teaching me more about reading music, and he was turning me on to some jazz records, and Barney Kessel and Joe Pass. He was teaching me standards, but the real rock and roll stuff I was getting myself. You know? That's why, again, Kiss was a good band to start with because it was pretty simple. It was just mainly a lot of bar chords and such, but yeah. Just pentatonic stuff, but you know, I was getting my foundation and I was earning it. I was getting it with my ear. But then eventually, you know, I got a guitar teacher. Then I eventually studied some classical guitar, and I studied jazz guitar later at University of Miami.
Oh, you go to university.
So yeah, so I was
in the music program.
In the music program, exactly. So, you know, I started getting influences from other styles besides rock, but the rock was the foundation, and still is. But I draw upon all these other types of music because anything with guitar I love. You know?
Okay.
Or it doesn't have to have a guitar, but you know what I mean. The inspiration growing up was like, oh man, I want to know how to do that. It's a guitar, you know, whether it was country or rock or blues or jazz. You know, I was always just drawn in and turned on by the sound of the guitar. You know? It's always attracted me, right? Yeah.
You go to the music program in university.
Yeah.
Yep. And you play classical guitar too.
The first 2 years of my music majoring. My college career was at the University of Evansville in Evansville, Indiana, and the only guitar program offered was classical. So it wasn't that I knew nothing about classical music at all before going, but it was a guitar program, so I was like, all right,
okay,
and, you know,
okay.
And I was kind of keeping my mom happy by staying in school.
Okay.
So yeah, I somehow even auditioned on electric guitar. But they saw that I could play, and I guess they probably needed the students, so they let me in, and it was a really good period of growth for me because there was a guitar teacher there named Renato Bituri from Milan, Italy.
Oh.
So he got me started, you know, teaching me the basic technique and all the Fernando Sora and Segovia studies, and at that time I'm still taking jazz lessons, and I'm playing 3 nights a week in a rock band.
Okay.
So I'm getting lots of influence, you know, but to really become a proper classical guitarist, you know, I didn't dedicate nearly as much time. But I learned a lot from just the exposure to the music and how the classical guitarist, you know, features. You know, how they feature the melody. I think that informed later when I'm playing songs like it's some of that same kind of type of technique that the classical guitarists would use, or even the jazz guitar players. So all that kind of worked into shaping the way I play rock. You know, you know, and I think it all kind of, even though it may not be obvious to the listener when I'm playing, but all that's supporting what I do, you know, the variety of techniques and sounds and just the harmonic structure of some of these things, you know, learning the jazz standards and learning some of the classical pieces. You can't help but take that with you even when you're playing other styles, right? So all very valuable things, I think.
Okay. Just in case, if you have no university or music program, and you think, how about you playing?
If I hadn't had that? If I had, you know, I think I would still be a fine player.
Okay.
Because before that, I was already you know, I was already professional. You know, I was, you know, but maybe I would have gotten. Maybe I would have gotten some of those influences on my own somehow in another way. And I understand not everybody can afford to go to university, and I couldn't either. My family wasn't very well off, but I paid back student loans for many years. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had to take out loans. My mom helped me do that. But yeah, I realized that okay, maybe not everybody's in that situation. The really great thing now, eventually going to Miami, it was a great curriculum, and the teachers were great. But the far more important factor of that was just being around other players that were motivated and were awesome. You know, there were some players down there that were just, you know, it's either like sink or swim, right? You could either be discouraged because you're not as good as you might have thought you were. But it was a matter of just we all learned from each other. You know, there was one dorm floor that was mostly guitar players, and we were just hanging out all the time and playing. I was kind of more of the rock and roll guy.
Okay.
You know, I was a solid rock guy, and there was other players that were great fusion or jazz, and so we all appreciated what everybody could do, and we would learn from each other. So that was a really magical time because of that inspiration. You know, because of that mutual. Influence that we were having on each other. So again, as much as I got from the school, it was really more about, you know, this great, you know, collection of people that had the same goals and that really were trying to get better. So that was great to be around because I came from kind of a small town, and you know there were other players in town, but maybe didn't have the same drive that I did. So to go to another place where these people are like me, but they're kicking my ass. You know, it was, you know, I look back at that and realize that was a major period of growth for me because in addition to that, I was playing 6 nights a week in a cover band.
Okay.
So there I talk about the application. I had this perfect storm of, you know, being around some great players, and then also going out and having a gig and being able to go play. Didn't matter that I was playing Madonna and whatever it was, but I was playing Charlie Parker licks on Madonna songs. Okay. You know, I was taking all this stuff from the jazz world and fusion world, and I was already you know, I'd been playing live in a rock band since I was 13, so I had all that experience. So it was all kind of coming together. And really helping me grow a lot. I think I grew more in those 2 years than any other time in my playing. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
You play a lot of style music.
Yeah. I try to.
Can you show me some? You play rock, play jazz, play country.
Oh, you know, with the rock, I can turn my rock tone on.
Okay.
It's my roots.
Yeah.
So my tribute to Kiss and Ace Frehley. Now let's see what about something jazzy. Shoot, I don't even know what to play. Ripping around, swinging an F minor. I don't know. You were asking about country stuff, so I could.
Yep.
If I put on my bridge pickup and tap the coil, a little country twang.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
You know, just I'm a dabbler in lots of styles, but I do love it a lot. You know.
Wow. Thank you for the. Okay. What is the most challenging thing to be a rock guitarist?
Most challenging thing to be a rock guitar player? Do you mean professionally or technically or
both sides?
Well, I don't know. That's a tough question. The challenging thing is just playing in tune.
Okay.
I mean, that's a serious thing because I have a hard time playing in tune. I think Tommy Emmanuel said it to me once. Is that, you know, that's what separates the men from the boys, so to speak. not to be sexist, but
Okay.
the men from the boys, it's tuning. People that can play in tune. I think that Eric Johnson and Joe Satriani, as far as the rock world goes, they're two of the most in tune players that I know. Really in tune. And I've come a long way. I'm playing more in tune now than I ever have. But it takes a long time to really learn how to do it because the guitar is not a perfect instrument.
Yeah.
There's lots of compromising that needs to happen. And I've tried the Buzzy Feeton system, which kind of helps some things, or the fan staggered frets. Some of that's cool, but I don't think there's any perfect solution. It's like the main thing these days. It's time spent in figuring out, what the inconsistencies are, when you need to alter your tuning slightly for different keys, maybe. But tuning's hard in rock and roll because the distortion will magnify imperfections, right? So that's a challenge for I think any musician is tuning, but for rock guitar, that can be tough. Professionally, yeah. I mean, it's probably harder now than ever, as far as being a musician and trying to make a living. For me, the key has always been diversification. And by that I mean, I'm a rock guitar player, but I can also go play a blues or a jazz gig. I love all the different styles, so that's what's kind of helped me always figure out a way of making a living somehow, right? I mean, of course, my passion is my own music, my instrumental guitar. I guess you could mainly call it rock, but there's lots of other influences like we were just talking about. But with music, with any kind of thing like music, that's not necessarily the easiest thing to make a living with. It's, if you love it enough, you're going to keep doing it. I think some people at a certain point realize, well, this is going to be difficult, so maybe I need to have a job, which is fine. But hopefully they'll be able to keep the passion and keep it going, because music's important, and what a gift it is. To have music in our lives. This is an interesting story, and I've told it a couple of times, where I was standing around talking with a good friend of mine. He's a successful business guy, but he's a guitar player, and we're good friends. And he and I and one of his other business associates, we were having a conversation. And George and I are like geeking out about, oh man, did you see the guy, and then the tone? We're talking about some music thing, and we're like just going like we do about whatever it is, pedals or gear or tone. And we're talking, and the other guy was just standing there, and he goes, man, I wished I loved something as much as you guys love music. And it was such a kind of, I don't know, an enlightening moment, because it made me realize that the passion that we all have as players and as musicians, that not everybody has that in their life. Can you imagine your life without music, or that passion for your guitar, or whatever the type of music that you're into, or instrument? And it made me really further appreciate, man, my whole life has been centered around this. I wouldn't know what it would be like without it, right? But not everybody has that passion. So if you have found that passion in your life, I hope you'll do everything you can to feed that, whether it's being able to make all of your living from it or not. We all have to figure out a way of paying the bills, right? Whether you're a musician or not. And so that never goes away. And you'll find a way to do that, whether it's with the instrument or not. But some people kind of set it down, well, I'll never be Joe Satriani or whatever. Well, you don't have to be. You just have to love it and enjoy the process. And not worry about that you're not as good as this guy or that guy. It's just enjoying the journey, right? And it's just taken me years to realize, just for me personally, it's okay just to be me. Because sometimes it's easy as a player, especially guitar players. Oh, I'll never shred like Yngwie or Sean Lane or whatever. But yeah, because those guys are unique to what they're just brilliant at what they do. But I'm really finally happy being myself and just trying to play the way I play, And if I have people that dig it, then I'm very honored by that, you know. And that's I feel very blessed. So
Oh yeah.
keep trying. I keep trying.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
I think that's important for every human being to realize that. We don't have to compare ourselves to anybody else. We just have to work as hard as we can to really, you know, nurture whatever gift that we have. And it may not be to be the most proficient musician, but you have to just keep working, but enjoying the process. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, very good answer. Yeah. I
Well,
love
thank
it.
you. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's taken years of kind of figuring this out. But yeah, I think that can apply to all of us. You know.